Just wanted to give a few quick updates on Field Day, my 2D action horror game, as well as talk about the combat situation. First things first, I finally finished a simple gameplay loop. As the player, you'll want to make your way out of these caves, as they're teeming with hostile life forms that can and will kill you. There are a few weapons here and there, as well as some healing items scattered around, but what you'll mainly be focused on is finding a key. Before you can use that key, however, you'll need to make sure that the exit terminal has power. If you aren't quick enough, then the generator will run out of gas, the exit terminal will lose power, and you'll be trapped forever. So, you'll want to find the gas can, find the generator, refuel said generator with the gas can, find the key, use the key on the exit terminal, and that's it. You're out. Haven't really thought of what to do beyond this point. However, even getting this far meant creating and combining a lot of different core game mechanics. First was level randomization. Like most indie game devs on YouTube, a big part of my very first game is going to involve procedural generation in some way. I don't know how it will benefit my game to have procedural generation, and frankly, I don't even think that it will. In fact, there's a non-0% chance that it'll hurt my game. But I don't make the rules, I just follow them blindly. Right now I have entity spawning randomized based on a few game world attributes that I plan to abstract out over time so that they can also be randomized. One of those attributes is positioning. Because I haven't actually implemented something like wave function collapse in my game yet, I've resorted to setting the spawn locations for enemies and items manually. Then, I use system.random to determine which entities spawn at each location. It also determines how many entities will spawn at a given location, if any. This is fine, but I do have an implementation, albeit a jank implementation, of 2D Perlin noise procedural tile map generation working in another project. Porting it over shouldn't be too difficult, however, I think for the purposes of making a top-down 2D game, wave function collapse might offer a much better path forward. As it stands now, having randomization for each level tied to a seed, and then changing the seed to get different results, is working, and I'm glad that I started out with this approach. Certainly adds a bit of fun to playtesting. Electricity, not worth it. Seriously, I made a system that not only simulates power being drawn from a generator, but I even have a growing sound library for different objects powering down once that generator runs out of fuel. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't difficult to get something like this up and running, but getting it to be fun without being aggravating or unfair took me way more time than I'm proud to admit. Plus, in that gameplay loop I talked about earlier, it is entirely possible to completely exhaust a generator's fuel supply, and if that happens, then the player really is soft-locked for the rest of the game. For right now, the plan is to add a sort of portable biomass vending machine to hostile levels that will act as a small shop. That way you can sell materials collected from enemies, who will always respawn, and collect fuel that way. Perhaps that'll be the next thing I tackle, but wait. If the generator runs out of fuel, then what powers the shop? I did not think this system through. Oh, new enemy. This guy is still a work in progress. In fact, I might make a separate video all about him if anyone's interested. Suffice it to say, making a second enemy has helped me really pin down what I want the style of my game to be. Not only does he behave entirely differently than the simple Neo mutant I've had in my game up until this point, this new Gamma mutant, tentative name, has also guided me to go in a different direction with the horror aspect. As a result, I've redone almost all of the audio for both enemies, and now they sound like this. I've achieved this effect by layering the sounds of growls and gurgles from different animals and people with the sounds of someone crying or laughing, which I think gives the audio this really unnerving quality. Like, what are these things? Are they still human? Were they ever human to begin with? I also added a new ranged attack. That's right, I'm actually going to touch on the combat briefly. Crazy, right? This took way longer than it should have. I already have an implementation of raycasting and projectile spewing, but getting this to work with the enemy AI script that I reworked for this new enemy type meant rethinking how and when I want these things to engage with the player. It also clearly needs some work, as I think the changes that I've made to the attack cooldown logic isn't working. These things are like Gatling guns and do way too much damage way too quickly, so perhaps a video where I focus solely on combat will also be dropping soon. Speaking of which, thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a good rest of your day. Take care. Bye.